Hi, class. So what do you think of creative writing? You're going to do a great job at it. I already know you're super creative, and you already know that every sentence starts with a capital letter and a punctuation mark at the end. So now all we have to work at is gathering our information about a topic and putting all our information into complete thoughts. So we're going to work on that together. I have a sentence for you to read. Read this out loud with me. Brad made a castle out of sand. If you notice, this started with a capital letter and it ended with a punctuation mark. Is it a complete thought? Brad made a castle out of sand. Well, who did something? Brad. What did he do? He made a castle out of sand. Yep. That is a complete thought. That is a sentence. Now, it's not a story unless it's probably 3 or 4 sentences, but we're going to even back it up to 2 or 3 as we're beginning, but it's a good start. Now, I have some more words that I'm going to lay out on the floor, and I'm going to have you help me put them in the right order. So it does matter the order that words appear, because they have to appear in a way that makes sense. If a group of words does not make sense, if it is not a complete thought, it is not a sentence. So let's take a look at what I have here. Okay, these are my words. For, castle, had, towers, the. What would be a good word to start with? Let's start with the. Now, I know it's not capital right now, because I wasn't sure which word was going to be the beginning of our sentence. We can work on that later. Let's stick it up here. The what? The for, the towers, the had, or the castle? How about the castle? The castle what? The castle had. What did it have? Now, it had towers. We could say the castle had towers, but then we don't have any place to put this word. The castle had towers for? How about if we switched these two? The castle had 4 towers. I think that is a great complete thought. We're talking about a castle, and it had 4 towers. So that is our sentence to be added to this sentence. Ben made a castle out of sand. So that makes our second sentence for our story. Okay, let's work on our third sentence. I'm going to lay my cards out here, and we're going to see what is the best order to put them in. It knocked down water. Okay, let's try starting with the again. The what? The water. What did the water do? The water knocked. The water knocked down it or it down? The water knocked it down. I'm going to move this sentence to go right underneath this sentence. Now, as you know, the needs to start with a capital letter, and we will have a period at the end in order for the sentence to be complete. Let's read our story. Whoops, wrong way. Here we go. So we have Brad made a castle out of sand. Then down here, the castle had 4 towers. The water knocked it down. Do you see what we did there? We created an imagination on paper. We're talking about a sandcastle, and through the sentences that we wrote, we can imagine Brad at the beach building a sandcastle, then a big wave came and knocked it down. And we did that all through our words. You can do that too. Let's practice. There are a couple of steps to writing a story. First, you have to gather your information. The topic we're going to do today is we're going to write a story about water. You have to gather information, and then you have to plan your sentences. Let me give you some information about water that we could use in our story today. Well, people cannot survive more than 1 week without drinking water. That's a cool fact. The longest water slide is in the whole world is in New Jersey. It is almost 2,000 feet long. That's a cool fact. I'm sure you could think of some more cool facts about water too. Take a minute to think. I have one. Water is cold. Or another one. The sun makes the water warm. So step 1 was gather information. Step 2 was take all that information and figure out how you're going to use it in your story. Ask yourself some questions. What does water feel like? What does water look like? Where can we find water? How does water taste? Does it have a taste? What about, does water taste the same if you touch it in the ocean, like salt water, or from a water fountain? How does water smell? Those are some questions that you could ask yourself as you're working on information. Once you have all those thoughts, then you got to get those thoughts onto paper. My son Mark is super creative. Man, super creative. I'm trying to get him to put together a Lego video for you. He does stop motion. I'm telling you, he makes these Legos look like they're alive. It's amazing. And he said he'll make one just for first grade. Well, he loves to tell stories. And his dad is always saying, Mark, write your stories down so that you can read them later. Our mind is an amazing thing. God has created the human brain in an astonishing way. We need to take what the Lord has given us, those creative thoughts, and write them down. And you can make some really awesome stories. So step 3 is write. Now, that you're not done with step 3. You don't write and done. No, a good author has to write and rewrite. There's going to be mistakes. As you get older, you'll know this is called the rough draft. A rough draft just means there's my thoughts on paper. That's all it is. Now, in this step, this is where we need to remember our little, you find him here. This is the step where we need to remember our sentence man. For a sentence to be complete, it needs to have a head and feet. Head is the capital, nice and tall. Feet are the punctuation marks, so it doesn't fall. Head, feet, head and feet to be complete. That is step 3. Write and rewrite. In that step, I'm looking for a capital letter and a punctuation mark. And if you don't write it, you'll be rewriting it. All right, step 4. After you are happy with your sentences, like we were happy with the way we came up with that sentence, and we were happy with the way we came up those sentences, once we're happy with the way our sentences are, then we're able to just check over it for any last-minute changes. And then step 5 is share your story. As we get further along in writing stories, I want you guys to take a moment and jump on Marco Polo and share your story. We're not at that point right now. Right now, we're all writing the same story and the same sentences, but we'll get there. Our assignment next is to create a story together about water. So, I gave you some ideas. I told you that people can't survive without water. I told you where the longest water slide is. I said, how does salt water taste? Let's work together now to write some of those sentences. So I think the best way for us to do this on the video is for you to be thinking. I'll give you the first sentence, and then I will have to have you just write the second sentence, whatever you think it should be. And then when you snap your picture and send it to me in Google Classroom, I will read it. Remember, I'm looking for it to be talking about water. Our title of our story is water. So if all of a sudden you start talking about what you're going to have for dinner, you're a little off topic. Okay, my first sentence is going to be, well, we're talking about water, so my first sentence is going to be water